Hi, everyone. Welcome all who are tuning in. My name is Brenna Grace, and I am your hostess with the mostest tonight. I am the festival director for Spring Mysteries, and this is the road to Eleusis. The mysteries approach, and we are all feeling the call of the Great Mother. She wants us to come and witness and participate in her sacred rites. So, you should do that and register at www.springmysteries.com. Now, tonight brings us a special panel with discussions with the Temple of Ares, god of war, and Temple of Hephaestus, god of the forge. So, make sure you share your questions in whatever chat you're in. We'll see them anywhere you are, and we will make sure to get as many questions answered as we can in the time that we have. Remember, we are asking questions to the priests, priestesses, who have held these deities. So it is not talking to the gods, it's talking to the people. Let's see, we begin with Temple of Ares, and then make sure you stay till 7 so that you can watch the Temple of Hephaestus as well. Now, if at any point we drop the call or we drop the video, just wait where you are, refresh a couple times, we'll come back. Sometimes the gods bring in so much energy that they break the whole thing. So we have to reboot it up and keep going. So don't leave, stick around. All right, and welcome to, without further ado, the Temple of Ares. Yay! I'm going to go ahead and introduce the temple votary. That is our wonderful own, also assistant for Nicodemus Shadow Sky. Hi, Nico. Would you introduce your other brethren that are going to be here / are here?
Yes. With us, we also have Kieran, who is a current vessel. And then we also have Sean, also known as Kestrel, who will be joining us a little bit later.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, if you've been here, you know the drill. We're going to start off with a fun question, get warmed up, and see where luck takes us. All right. So, Ares. You know what? I don't know a whole lot about the Temple of Ares or Hephaestus, so I'm really excited to host these tonight and learn more. Does Ares have any foods or drinks that he loves or prefers?
Well, for me, he was a very meat and potatoes man. Any chance I got to eat a steak, chicken, I had lamb, I think, quite a few times more than I had in years. But just very rustic, very filling food that, kept you full as long as it could and tasted good too.
Yep, fair. Kieran?
For me, so far it's been spicy food. Which, like, I don't have a super high spice tolerance, but I've noticed it's gotten better since holding Aries. And so now I just put Cajun seasoning on literally everything because otherwise it's apparently just unacceptable. There we go.
I also put Cajun seasoning on just about everything.
Not a bad decision in general.
Right? So when you were given the role of Ares, when you were given the role of Ares, what things did you notice immediately regarding like how you acted or like maybe activities that you enjoyed doing, hobbies, stuff like that?
Incredibly impatient. If I had to wait 2 minutes more than I thought was necessary, I had to bounce my foot. I have to be doing something. He's very action oriented. But also Ares was a surprise for me because at that point I had already been Hephaestus and I was expecting there to be, I guess, internal conflict. I wasn't very excited to get the role at first. And then it turned out to be a huge growth experience for me. It wasn't anything like I had expected it to be. And so it was just a great experience for me overall. But oh my God, so impatient.
What about you, Kieran?
For me, it's very similar in that he gets bored. Oh my lord! One moment.
Won't be bored now. Our wonderful Kieran joins us from work because his work is so lovely to let him join us. He just has to go answer calls every once in a while. So,
I can actually build off of my answer a little bit too.
yeah,
I had always anticipated because there's always something we gain from these roles that we hold, and I was waiting for him to be like, okay, we're gonna work on your health, we're gonna work out every day, we're gonna do all this stuff. And so when he came in, I was just like, okay, how often am I going to the gym? What's my diet looking like? And he's like, nope, we're working on your anger issues. And I was like, oh, I'd rather go to the gym. Which, again, it turned out to be exactly what I needed, and I'm, leaps and bounds further from where I was internally and just as a person in general for it. But it was very entertaining just to see all the different new things that came up.
yeah.
All right, so I'm back. But the big thing that I noticed at first is that he gets bored really, really easily. And so it's constantly having to find something to do, which is why I'm sitting here quilting, because that's apparently the new thing. Uh, and yeah, so it's really just constantly having to do something, which fortunately has been really good with creative stuff.
Yeah. Awesome. We have our behind the scenes producer says quilting takes planning and discipline. Those count. We have a question from the audience from Chris. I also don't know a lot about Ares. Myths seem to put him off as bloodlust and wanting a fight. Is there more to him that you found out? Big question. Great question. Who would like to start?
All right. He is often painted as the I want to tear people in half and just kill, kill, kill. It's more of a byproduct of a particular skill that he's good at, which is war. But it's very much more so the fact that he is action oriented. He parallels Athena as the opposite side of the coin in that Athena is very methodically thought out. She will lay out a plan. She will have counter plans. She thinks everything ahead of time. With Ares, it's a matter of if you don't think of a way to win, there's no way to lose. So we just go until we win. And so I think one of the main reasons he comes off as bloodlust like that is because his plans are often very off the cuff or spur of the moment, because that's how he functions. He sees he sees the situation ahead of him. He decides on a thing he's going to do, and then he does it. It's less methodical, but it's still thought out. It's just a different style. And sometimes the simplest thing to do is to, cut them in half.
So to kind of build off of that, the comparison between Ares and Athena, in my experience, Athena is really the cerebral part of war, the strategy, the game of chess, the planning, who's going to be where, when, all that stuff. Whereas Ares is, for lack of a better term, the actual action of war. Ares is kind of what happens after, like, the chess game and all the strategy has been played out, basically. then you send Ares in and he does the thing. And so he ends up getting portrayed as more of the bloodlust and everything because his part of war is the actual doing of it. Not to say that Athena doesn't fight, but like Ares is more known for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that comes. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Nico.
Oh, that comes. A lot of that painting comes from a lot of social portrayal, social media, things like the God of War game series, things where Ares can be, in some cases, the villain, or in some cases, just really the impatient fighter. He doesn't want to sit around and talk tactic. He wants to just go out and get it done so we can go to the next thing. And so it's kind of like Athena is thought of as a goddess of knowledge, but there's so much to her than that, as you are well aware, Votary. Ares is known as the fighter, the fighter in bloodlust, but that's just the surface. There's layers and depth to that description.
And
So
also
many.
And also on top of that, not only is Ares a god of war, but he's also a god of dance,
Mm-hmm.
which is something that doesn't get talked about very much.
Right.
Mostly probably because that's not really the fun and interesting part for like media.
Well, and also, the myths reflect what was going on in Greece at the time, right? And there was a lot of war happening. And so that was their main focus when they were writing these myths. And so, Ares showed up more at war because there was less dance happening.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes. I've seen votary, vessel, and votive in these temple chats. Can you explain what they all do in the temple? I sure can. So a votary is the head of the temple. It is a person who has held the role and really connected with that deity and really understands their energy. And so they are in charge of the temple, which right now in this day and age means that they are someone that the rest of the temple can go to for advice. If they're having issues with that deity that they're holding, they can go to them. Or even if, say, I am the votary of Athena. If like Kieran is holding Ares this year, if he were to have an issue with like Athena's energy, he could totally come to me and say, I don't understand this. Can you help me talk it out like in an Athena Ares way? We'd be like, yes, let's do it. Right. The vessel is the current person holding the deity. The votive is someone who has held it in the past. So votary, vessel, but yep, okay, that's all three. Making sure I hit them all. In the future, we really, we want physical temples, and as we grow, obviously our dreams grow, and we want land, we want temples, and so hopefully they'll be able to actually run an actual temple someday is the hope. So yay. Good question, Wendy. Thank you. Yes, and all these roles make up the priesthood and or the clergy. That is correct. Okay. I would love to hear myths about Ares, maybe your favorite or one that stood out to you the most. Because, we really don't hear a whole lot of myths about him besides just charging into battle.
So I won't lie, my favorite myth about Ares more includes Ares than anything else. And it's just because it makes me laugh every time I think about it or tell it. And it's the story of Electreon. And for those of you who aren't familiar, there's a myth involving Ares, Aphrodite, and Hephaestus, where Ares and Aphrodite, sequester away to make love. And Ares charges Electreon to guard their place where they are so that, no one comes upon them. And at one point, Electrion, during his duty of guarding, fell asleep, and Helios caught sight of them and told, I think, Hephaestus, and that led to the net being cast and the whole affair there. Electrion, who obviously had failed in his duties, was punished by Ares by being turned into a rooster. And that is why Electrion is the god of roosters and chickens.
I've never heard that one before.
I know. It's just one of the things where it's like, of course there's a god of roosters. And of course it's because Ares' sentry fell asleep.
Fascinating. What about you, Kieran? Do you have a favorite myth of Ares?
It's also that one.
Well, I do have another one. I do not tell it near as well as the person who told me, but it was about Ares and fear. And again, forgive me if I don't tell this story near as well as I should, but it's basically Ares's children represent fear in regard. I think there's 3 of them, and they each have a particular thing that they represent. Apologies to not having the information, but he rid himself of his fear through his children being away from him. But then he realized as he was in battle that he couldn't do what he did as well as he could because he didn't have his fear. And it's a wonderful myth, and it teaches you how you shouldn't think of fear as something to be rid of, but more to be utilized, because fear makes us grow. And it's a wonderful myth, and I welcome and encourage everyone to look it up and read through it. It's a wonderful story. I don't retain that much information.
I was just looking it up. So Phobos is the god of panic.
Yeah.
Deimos is the god of fear.
Mm-hmm.
So Phobos and Deimos are the ones that he got rid of fear and panic with. That's right. All right, we have a couple of great questions coming in. So, what might we set up in our own homes to hold space for Ares?
Go ahead, Karen.
So for me, Ares is less of a deity that you might set up a whole altar to, and more of to hold space for Ares is more of a thing of doing. And so it's, if you have a space in your house that is dedicated to creative pursuits, putting things out into the world, that is a good, basically, place to hold space for Ares.
Another version of that would be if you have a room where things are constantly happening just in general. If you have, obviously we're in a pandemic, but just in general, if you have a room that is often the site of family gatherings or board game nights or a place where things are doing or happening, that is also a space. For specific altars, if you want to do an altar for Ares, sharp objects of the stabby persuasion are usually popular. The thing about altars is it's all about intent. So, for example, I have a wonderful friend from work who was playing with a 3D printer and wanted to print me something, and so he printed me a little Among Us character that could be pulled in half, like it is when it's killed in the game. And it happened to be the red one that he made me, and so it sits on my altar in front of the Ares statue. As sort of his little conquest thing because it's funny. So really whatever evokes the feeling of, Ares in general, dance, if you have a favorite song or CD, or a dance track, that would be something. Anything in the color red, that's kind of his shtick. I'm trying to think of anything else that I have. Garnet or anything pertaining to the root chakra is also really good because he doesn't sugarcoat. He gets straight to the point, and a lot of his energy is grounding, which is very synonymous to the root.
Thank you. And I believe our Sean just popped in. I'm not sure if he can be on video yet or not. But yay, welcome, Sean. There he is. Ooh, you have some feedback things going.
I turned it up.
Here. Let me my headset.
Okay. All right. So we're letting him go to his headset. In the meantime, we will start answering the next question we got in. How does Aries work with Aphrodite's energy? What strength there can we bring into our own relationships? Oh, what a good question.
The short answer is really well.
The longer answer is passion is really what comes out of that. And so the main thing that really can be gained out of that particular pairing is passion for anything. It's not just like passion in a sexual term or a romantic term. It's passion for anything. And so it's just working with both of them to help to steal a concept from Hephaestus, stoke the fires, as it were.
You'll notice that I am also wearing my little rose for Aphrodite since it's Aries and Hephaestus tonight. Thought I'd give her a little shout out.
Sean is sideways.
He's fixing it. Yes, that's the thing that both of them have very, very much in common is passion. To do anything, to have the drive to do anything and do it well is passion. And then Aphrodite, all fair in love and war. The passions of love, romance, and intimacy. But it is also it's the sacred duality, and it's finding the balance. Aries is he's a very big, very intimidating, and at times overwhelming energy, and she tempers that, because Aries can also be very soft and very caring, especially when it comes to Aphrodite.
Thank you, Nico. Let's see. Can we hear you, Sean?
I think so.
Yay! There we go. So nice to have you here. Thank you for joining.
Not a problem.
So we are just talking about how does Aries work with Aphrodite's energy. They were mentioning that, both of them are very passionate, and Aphrodite kind of tempers Aries a little bit. Do you have anything to add to that?
I would have to totally agree with Aphrodite tempering Aries. She brings out his soft side. When I held Aries for Spring Mysteries, if it wasn't for Aphrodite, there would have been some, shall we say, rage energy going on because of things in my life. But because of Aphrodite, I was able to calm down and work through it. That's one thing she taught me as Aries.
That is awesome. It is so wonderful to see the back and forth of these receptive and projective energies and deities. It's so fun. I, of course, have a lot of thoughts as a priestess of Aphrodite, but I'm going to wait till next week when it's my turn.
I'm sure you do.
I do too. All right. So many good questions coming in here. Do you also work with his Mars aspect? So the Roman counterpart.
No, because I work with Mars's grandfather, unfortunately.
Yes, Nico is a big Saturn person.
I don't know if I'm a big Saturn person, but I did have the pleasure of holding Saturn for a Hecate Sickle Festival some years back. And it's one of those things where when you've got one, maybe two of the planets working around in your head, that's enough for me. They're a lot. They can be a lot.
I personally don't work much with Mars because that aspect has never called out to me.
Fair. Kieran?
I personally, I'm kind of similar to Sean in that the Mars aspect has never really called to me. Sorry, I'm like trying to do three things at once at this point.
Typical Aries.
The current vessel.
Typical Aries. All right.
Yeah.
That is a good point to bring up, that just because, like, especially with the Greeks and Romans, one does not necessarily always equate the other. You will find parallels, especially when doing your research on one or the other. And you can gain some insight in the Greek by looking at the Roman, or the Roman by looking at the Greek, but it's not unanimous, or not unanimous. It's not a guaranteed Aries has shown up, therefore I'm also working with Mars.
Right.
Yes, that is correct. There's a lot of really cool info on how the Romans viewed gods, and it is actually very different from the Greeks. So they are not the same, but there are lots of similarities. Let's see. The next question we have is, how can we support the warriors in our life through Aries?
That's a good question.
I suppose I would counter ask if you mean the literally, like our military military folks, veterans, or if you're talking about the figurative warrior, the person in our life who is kind of always there, always taking on something for you, always trying to support, and be what people need to be.
Well, why not both?
I was in there. I am not learned enough to know a lot of resources when it comes to supporting the military. But I mean, just the simple act of thanking a service member for their service can sometimes make their day. Just goodwill in general, and being an overall good person, especially if someone comes up and you happen to be at the store and you hear that they're getting a military discount, or they're wearing their uniform, or if it's a veteran, they're wearing their notable hat. Just taking a moment to get their attention and thank them for their service, shake their hand, sometimes just makes their day. For me, the warrior aspect in me, it is sometimes humbling and oftentimes required to have someone tell me that I can take a break. If you have someone who's always volunteering their time, volunteering their energy, their services to support the people in their lives, it's sometimes very necessary for me to have someone here, like something along the lines of, you don't have to do everything. You can take a break. What can I do for you? Because sometimes the reasoning that we are that kind of person is working through things that we have experienced in our lives, and we sometimes get lost in the acts of service to the point that we forget to serve ourselves. It is very easy for someone who is constantly serving to forget to take care of themselves because they begin to prioritize everything else. And just verbally hearing, you can take a break. Reminds, it's just kind of that thing of, oh God, right, I haven't drank water today. Oh, I haven't eaten, that kind of thing.
Thank you, Nico. All right. Sean, how about you? How do you think we can support the warriors within our lives?
Nico said a lot of stuff that came to my mind. I get on the service point of view. I get a lot of military and retired military coming into my work. I make it a point to thank all of them. On the home front point of view, I do the same thing with all our doctors and nurses because they're the warriors in the hospitals right now.
Yeah, they are.
I don't care what you do, whether you're a candy striper all the way up. I know candy stripers aren't around anymore, but the equivalent, all the way up to surgeons. I will thank them for doing what they do so we can stay alive.
Absolutely. Do you have anything to add, Kieran?
My big thing that I would say is, especially if you're thinking of the warriors in your personal life, finding out from them what it is that they need for support, whether that's just like the occasional hug or someone to talk to, just basically finding out what it is that they need, and to the best of your ability, providing that to them. So if it's like, if say you've got someone who works in a hospital or something, being ready with like a hot drink or something when they get home so they can relax, or whatever it is that helps them decompress from all the work, all the amazing work that they do, and just doing what you can to support them in the way that best fits them.
Awesome. Thank you all. That was a good one. Man, we've got a lot of really good questions here. I don't have to ask any of mine. Okay. What is a lesser known power or magic of Aries that you'd like to work with?
Kieran brought it up a little earlier, but the aspect of the dancer. For me, when I was younger, I always told myself I wanted to learn to tango because it looked complicated. But he is that. It's just that when you freestyle, or when you have a dance that you spend hours, days, weeks learning to perfection, routine things like cheer or competitive dance, things like that, that drive and that, I guess to an extent, wild creativity that is expression, is something that I try to use To an extent, I guess, not necessarily in dance itself, just because I don't have a whole lot of reasons or spaces to dance in and with, but that channeling of that similar drive into the things that I can't do.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
I'm right.
You have something to add, Sean?
I was just saying, I'm right there with you, Nico. I do the same.
Anything to add, Kieran?
My whole thing is him being a god of passion, not just when he's in combination with Aphrodite, but basically finding something that I'm passionate about and being able to throw my whole self into it in a way that I hadn't been able to do before.
Awesome. All right. This is a really good question. So, would setting up an altar to Ares bring conflict or conflictive energies into your home?
I would say no, because his domain is not conflict, but the will and passion needed to face conflict. So I would say putting up an altar for Ares would bring solid footing energetically, passion, drive, and the manifestation of action. So if you are someone who is often indecisive or finds yourself in a place of stagnation where you're kind of going through the same motions, you're in that figurative rut, this will bring about momentum to the things that you want to do, but maybe aren't able to get out of that rut to do. I get like kind of what we said earlier. He's often viewed as the fighter, but it's less so the fact that he brings about fights, more so that he brings about the action needed to fight, or the drive and passion and will needed to fight.
Absolutely. And I would also compare it with, if you look at Aphrodite and Ares together, you've got the receptive and projective. And often working couples, it's the receptive where you get the idea, right? So the idea comes to you and you're like, oh my gosh, I can do this. And so the idea is, in old Gardnerian Wicca that, you had to be a male-female working couple, right? But it's really, you have to be a receptive, projective energy to have a very powerful magic combination, which you can be either. You could choose. doesn't really matter. It's easier if you really identify with one of those or the other, right? But the receptive priestess would have the idea, say how they wanted to do it, plan it, and then the projective then goes, all right, let's go, boom, and creates it. And so that also brings in Athena too. Actually, I didn't even think of that. Anything else to add to that?
The one thing I will say about that is that while it may not attract or bring in conflict, it may, however, cause existing conflicts that haven't been dealt with to surface. So it's not that it's bringing the conflict, it's that it's basically Ares saying, you need to deal with this.
Yes. You need to resolve the conflict. That's what my Ares altar did. It brought in the drive to resolve the conflicts, not let them just sit by the wayside.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want any conflicts just sitting there.
Yeah, a common visual that I had when I was going through my motions as a learning priest was the thing in the box on the shelf, which is the things that you are either not addressing or, in this particular case, that you are avoiding. He's very much the, oh, you're just letting that sit around? Well, no, we can't have that.
Mm-hmm.
There are things that you are not ready for and that you don't have the tools for, or that you are working on, which is one thing. But if you're actively avoiding something because you're scared, or because you just, and it could be something like a trauma, or a thing where you have the tools, you just either don't know you have the tools or haven't realized you have the tools, or it, more often than not, especially with Aries, it's a thing of fear. Bringing up the myth that I touched on before, you face the fear because you are stronger than the fear. You don't let the fear control you, which is another big thing. Is it's taking control of yourself.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing those. All right, I love this question. Thank you for asking it, Chris. What has Aries taught you that reflects in your life now? Kieran, you want to go first?
Yeah. For me, it's a lot of learning not to overthink things. A lot of don't think, just do. Especially in my personal relationships, it's his energy has basically pushed me to be like, okay, so you wanted to do this thing or say this thing for a really long time, and you keep overthinking what's going to happen when you say this thing. We're going to say it. And it's thus far gone very well for me.
I am glad that is the case. Sean, what about you? What did Aries teach you that you still utilize?
Kind of touching on the last question, but not to avoid my conflicts, but to push through them so I move on. Because that was a big issue with me before I held Aries, was I would push stuff aside until it exploded. Well, I learned from Aries, can't do that. You got to deal with it and move on.
Yep. Nico?
My main focus when holding Aries was dealing with anger. And I grew up knowing that my genetics from my parents led to the potential and, at some cases, evidence of major anger potential. And I, for a long time, resented and hated and feared that side of myself because I had seen what kind of person could come out of that anger, and I was kind of left avoiding a lot of things because I didn't want it to risk losing control of that anger. And it was a combination of learning what I can do to de-escalate myself, as well as learning that just because it's a part of me doesn't mean I need to hate it. I just need to adapt and learn what I can do to be the best form of myself, even with the flaws. Which one of the greatest pieces of advice I ever received since starting my own path was taking a half second and asking yourself why you're choosing to react a certain way. And I lived that mantra the entire year that I held Aries. And I use it every day at work. I use it in situations as summoner for the Evergreen Hearth. It's it changed completely how I entered situations of communication and conflict and not aggression, but when you butt heads or when you reach something that doesn't mesh right, just being able to manipulate the energy to the point where it's not the conflict, it's finding the flow. So conflict resolution as a very generic summary.
That was really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Nico. Wow, that was good stuff. Oh, well, we had an actually good question from Steven. He's asking about Aries, the zodiac sign. So Aries, the zodiac sign, and Aries, the god, are two very different things. They have some similar energies, but they are two very different things. So we're going to focus on the god Aries. All right, where are we? We are at 6:48. Okay, so I'm gonna get started on the last question. Are there any pieces of wisdom or things you want to share with those who are watching regarding Aries? Looks like Nico had something in mind. Nope.
I mean, I can pull something out of the hat. I just
We can have someone go else first. That's fine.
That's fine.
Yeah. Sean or Kieran, anything jumping out at you that you would like to tell the peoples?
The short version of it is don't think, just do. But the long version of it is if there is something positive in your life that you've been thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking of doing, but for whatever reason you haven't, either if it's a new skill you want to learn that you're afraid you're not going to be good at, if it's telling someone how you feel, whatever it is, you don't need to think about it that much. Like, Aries has the strength to help you push through that last little bit of thought and just do the thing.
Sounds like Aries would be great for my ADHD. Sean, do you have anything to add? No. No, never mind.
No, Aries is like a really, really aggressive case of untreated ADHD.
Yes. My thought train jumped the track.
Aries is like, you want me to give these people thoughts and ideas? I want you to just go do stuff.
Tots and pears.
The thought that popped into my head was, don't be afraid to ask him to help you through stuff. He'll be right there pushing you along. Yes, you will go first, but he'll be right behind you pushing you.
That's awesome. Thank you, Sean. Nico?
If you take a moment and allow that thing in your mind that you subconsciously think of when you think of something that scares you, to do, to say, to be, and then realize that there is a reason that is the subconscious thought you have in that regard, it is probably so much more important that you give yourself the time, the energy, and the chance to do, say, or be that particular thing than it is to allow yourself to continue hindering your forward motion by giving fear more power than it is deserved. Because fear is giving into the idea that you are not enough or not ready. And if you remove that thought or that concept and then look at the situation again, you can oftentimes find that you are far more ready than you thought you were.
Well, that was, I think, a good note to leave off on. So I would like to thank the Temple of Ares for coming today and for answering questions and sharing your wisdom. Thank you so much again, our votary Nico, our vessel Karen, and a past votive Sean. Let's see. Next up, we have Hephaestus joining us. Woo! So make sure you stay for that. If you would like to find out more about the Temple of Ares, you can either find them on Facebook as the Temple of Ares, or you can go to our website at www.atcwicca.org/temple-of-Ares. Also, please remember to register for Spring Mysteries if you want to come learn even more about the deities and see these wonderful people at work. So remember, registration's open, www.springmysteries.com. And we will be back after a short intermission. Welcome back, everybody. We are here with the Temple of Hephaestus. Woohoo! I would like to introduce the... Okay, before I do that, if we crash, because sometimes the deities come in so hard that they crash our system, stay where you are. We'll come back, we promise. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce the votary of this temple as well, Nicodemus Shadow Sky, and let him introduce those who are here tonight.
So we have Sean, also known as Kestrel, Daryl Delph, my teacher, and then we have Bill, who is our current vessel.
Yay, welcome everybody. So happy to have you here. All right, so as always, we're going to start off with some fun questions. So how many projects did you start when you were holding Hephaestus? Yes.
Number-wise, I had 8 projects that I started when I found out I was Hephaestus.
So before Hephaestus.
Well, before I was Hephaestus,
No. I was just commenting on it. Go ahead.
I had 8 projects started like a week after I found out I was going to be holding Hephaestus for Symph. One of them was I built my forge.
There you go. Let's see. Daryl, do you have anything to add about how many projects you had?
Well, the first thing the priesthood gave me was a Lego set. So I built the James Bond car from the classic movies. That was fun. And then I proceeded to build a throne, some round shields, a bunch of, 250 some odd rune staves, about 16 dozen rune sets. Because before Spring Mysteries came along, we had a Norse sickle. And I'm Hephaestus. I have a 1,200 square foot wood shop. Guess where I'm going to be. So, yeah. A lot.
Thank you, Daryl. Nico?
A lot.
A lot. Do you have any favorite projects you worked on?
Well, the ones that I actually did and finished. Oh my God, I had so many damn ideas. Trying not to curse too much on live. I wanted to make signs for all of the shrines. I wanted to make staves and spears, and I wanted to outfit the gods. The projects that I kept and ended up finishing was I designed my hammer, which means I went and found a hammer that wasn't modern. So it was just a wooden handle and a metal head. And then I carved Hephaestus' name into it in Greek. Not quite as nice as that one. And then was it the 33rd? Is that why it was the milestone? I can't remember. That happened to be the year that it was a milestone, so I wanted to do something for the auction to commemorate it. And so I acquired a piece and made a plaque that displayed one of every god's tokens from that year, from their shrines, as well as, on request, provided tokens also from the 3 vessels of Fortuna at the time, as well as the Graces. I think that's all I did on that plaque. There was other ones, but we didn't go forward with that. Yeah. So that plaque, along with my hammer, went up for auction that year.
That is awesome. And Bill, how about you? Do you have any projects in the works?
I've got about 6 pet projects going right now.
That's right.
One is he wants me to do spoons. I have the food pantry that's near and dear to my heart when I'm not the vessel. And he says, you're gonna do spoons while you're invoked. And what the spoons are is they're metal spoons that I take and hand stamp words on them and then sell them as a fundraiser for the pantry. That's one of my big pet projects, and the goal is there's 7 spoons in the set. I will have a set of spoons done and put them up for auction. As I'm going to do them while I'm invoked, so that they have a little more power to them.
That is wonderful. Oh my goodness.
And of course, he wants me to grow the pantry. He wants me to build more. He wants me to do more. And it's a lot of work. It's a labor of love, but it's so worth it. It's a lot of work.
So Bill created the pagan. It's basically a pagan food bank. It's out in Lansing, Michigan.
I didn't create it. I inherited it.
Oh, he inherited it. Well, he inherited it and and he has taken off running, and he affiliated with the ATC, and we're helping him out. So if you see things about pagans in need, that's all Bill. He's awesome. That is great. Okay, so here's a great question that I love and I can't wait to ask. Do you all aim to marry Aphrodite?
Nope.
Daryl does?
Actually, considering the vessel the year that I was Hephaestus was my wife.
Well, that worked out well.
Yeah. And yeah. But not every year. Just that year.
Just that year. Other men in here, would you marry Aphrodite?
Yes.
I'm torn. It's a toss-up between yes, because I would never wish to insult her in any way, shape, or form. However, I truly subscribe more to the later myth where he marries Aglaia, because they complement each other more for each other.
Ah. And I'm going to circle back around to that. Bill.
I don't desire to marry Aphrodite. She's beautiful, but not for me. I do subscribe to the Aglaia as well, because of the relationship is better there. And actually, personally, I think it would have been a better match with Hephaestus and Hestia, but that's me.
Well, you making wooden spoons or metal spoons for everyone, I would think so.
I did make wooden spoons, actually.
There you go. Okay, so we actually had a question come up that says, oh, good old Michelle. I'm aware of Hephaestus making gifts for Aphrodite. Do we know of any objects he made for Aglaia? So, Nico, would you like to tell the story of Aglaia and Hephaestus, if there's, what the background is behind there?
No, because I didn't focus as much on the myth as more so as the energy and the visualization that I have. I was traumatized by a certain priest of Zeus my year, because the vessel of Aglaia that year is his current wife, and he tried to hook me up with his wife. But that's a whole nother story. Whenever I think about Hephaestus and marriage, it's like there's nothing to say that he and Aphrodite weren't happy, but it's more so that Hephaestus needed someone that complemented and contrasted him in the same way. And where I come to that is, I always imagine Hephaestus is out in his workshop doing building making as he does. He comes into the homestead after the fact. For those of you who aren't as familiar, Aglaia is one of the Graces and is her focus is etiquette and order. And so when he walks into the homestead, everything is in the place that it is supposed to be. Everything is neat. Everything is as it should be. There's food being prepared. There's no sign of disorder. And all Aglaia does when she looks up and sees him is, you better wipe your feet.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just that feeling of, oh my God, you're perfect. Every time.
That's awesome. Does anyone else have things they want to add about Aglaia and Hephaestus?
Aglaia is that genuine connection. The goddess of love is grand and everything, but she is so many things to so many people. And the grace of etiquette and manners and protocol to the individual who crafts and works to make everything better, it just really works well. They complement each other so well.
That is so sweet. Okay. Anything else to add from our other Hephaesti? Made that up. Which isn't even right because that's Latin and we're talking Greek. Okay, so.
For the record,
Okay,
I miss Hephaesti at all times, so you're good.
Okay, good. So a next question we have here. In one sentence, how would you describe Hephaestus?
One sentence?
One sentence. You got it, Bill?
Do it right the first time.
I love that.
Measure twice, cut once.
That's a tough question for me to put into one sentence.
The only thing I can come up with is something that I say when I'm thanked for the things that I do for specifically my community, because it's just always on the tip of my tongue every time it's said. And it's that I serve at the pleasure of my community.
Oh, that's sweet.
Because a lot of times, especially when it's more tedious things, I get a lot of people who are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you did this. Thank you so much. And it really is like a labor of love when you can do and make for someone and they truly appreciate not only the product, but the time and dedication that goes into it.
Absolutely.
And along that lines, the sentence that popped into my head is, I make to beautify the world.
That is wonderful. Thank you. All right. So Michelle asks, do you see any truth in the idea of Hephaestus as Aphrodite's submissive, a beautiful relationship for the time?
Nope.
Solid no? Care to elaborate?
He is hardworking, dedicated. He loves Aphrodite. He understands he can't be all things to Aphrodite. It doesn't make him a cuckold or a submissive.
Exactly.
I would not disagree, but state in the sense that I don't think I believe in the vein of the question being asked, I don't think he is opposed to doing something that would please her in that particular act of love. But one of the things that I said very much, or very many times when I was Hephaestus, because the question was asked a lot about the relationship between Aphrodite and Hephaestus and Ares, is that once he learned the lesson that he needed to about himself, Hephaestus had no problems with Aphrodite, because Aphrodite what she is, which is a goddess of love, passion, and all things therein. And he would never expect her to change that. But it was also the important fact of no matter where she was or what she was doing or who she was doing and what she was doing with those people, she always came home to Hephaestus. And that was never a question or never a worry about it.
Sean, do you want to add something? Yeah, just agreeing.
I was just agreeing with them.
Yep.
The year I held Hephaestus, the priest of Ares was a member of our community. And during the Saturday night festivities, when we're all, dancing and having fun, Hephaestus and Ares had their arms interlocked and they were on their knees dancing around Aphrodite, who was dancing between them, as a proper, healthy poly relationship.
Mm-hmm.
That is awesome. Yes. And you're welcome, Michelle. It's a good question that I'm sure a lot of people have on their mind,
Yep.
I can tell you, I don't want to go too much into it because Aphrodite is next week, but I can tell you that Aphrodite loves the beautiful things Hephaestus makes. She loves his sense of beauty. She knows that he sees beauty and she sees beauty. And so she sees that beauty within him and she loves him. So, and she wants him to do whatever makes him happy. Doesn't care. So I just wanted to throw that in there real quick. All right. Okay. Next question for Hephaestus priests. What kind of activities can you do to worship Hephaestus?
Make things.
Make things, create things.
One of the stigmas that I wanted to break the year I was Hephaestus was that he is a god of blacksmiths, and that is it. He is always seen as the blacksmith. And that is a very specific niche in the subject that he governs, which is creation. He is a god of creation. One of the things that, and I intended this pun completely, one of the things that I wanted to hammer in was that whatever you make, if it is made by your hand, whether it's whittling, whether it's painting, whether it's knitting, whether it's done completely with your hand tools or with modern technology, if you put your passion and your all and your energy into what you make, you are doing by him honor and justice. That is his domain and his energy. If you've ever bought something handmade and you felt that energy in it, that is the spark. That is the flame that Hephaestus shares with everyone and everything that creates and is created.
Awesome. Thank you, Nico. Daryl, you had something to add?
Hephaestus, in modern parlance, is the god of industry. He is constantly developing things that improves the gods' lives. So, spears, thrones, whatever it might be, because there's always a lesson with all of them.
Unless he traps his mother in the throne.
Yeah.
Bill, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Well, I can say tonight was full moon ritual for my personal coven, and we traded 3 things tonight, and he was there all about it, like, let me help you. What do you need? It was amazing because we did 3 different things. The one thing that I can talk about is something that I created. I created Florida water because I have a need for it, so I created it. I've got 2 batches sitting for the next 29 days, and he's all like, hurry up. I want to try this. I want to see how it works. Come on, let's go. He's very excited about it. And the other 2 things he was very excited about being a part of and putting that energy into it and putting that, it's not even just the energy, it's the love. You have to love what you're doing. And if you don't love what you're doing, find a different craft, find a different project, find something that speaks to your heartstrings, and then go for it and do it. Like I said, that do it right the first time. Don't screw around. Find out what needs to be done and do it right the first time. And he'll be there. He's got my back all the time. Now that I'm working with him, it's a great feeling. I can see great things coming because there's lots of work that needs to be done around my house, and it's probably going to happen this year because, yeah, why not?
Well, and even to build on that is if you find you are doing a craft that you don't find joy in, analyze why you're doing that craft. If you're just pumping out stuff so that you can sell it and make money, you are not going to create the best possible thing because it's non I guess it's work without thought, I guess, is the term I'm going with.
There's no passion in it.
Yeah. And I mean, it might not even be that there's no passion, and it's just your basis for doing so is muddled by something that doesn't give life to the creation. Like, if you're doing something just to meet the demand of other people will find somewhere else to buy something because there will always be demand. But you are the one who makes the conscious decision to put your energy into what you make.
Definitely. Sean, did you want to add something?
Not really, because everything that was running through my head has already been said.
Oh, that hive mind. All right. Oh, I love this question. Daryl, did you want to say something?
Another thing, if you don't feel that you can craft things and you want to honor Hephaestus, do not sit there and try to talk a craftsperson down on pricing. Pay what they ask. There is a reason for it. They put a lot of thought into it. And if you think they're not charging enough, go ahead and pay them more.
Yep.
Good stuff. Thank you, Daryl. Do you think Hephaestus and Athena work together a lot through their oversight of craftspeople? I'm going to start with Bill.
Absolutely. Just because Hephaestus is the blacksmith crafter and does other things too, it doesn't hurt to have a cohort to help you oversee things. Can't be there all the time, but can share the responsibility. And I think it's working with Athena is great because Athena's got some great ideas too, and may have a different way to do something and may make it better than what Hephaestus thought he could do it. There's nothing wrong with collaborating and making more hands, lighter work.
Yep. Nico, did you want to say something?
Well, anytime someone brings up Athena and Hephaestus, like I have to grab the bridge of my nose because of the the one particular myth that involves the both of them, where he pursued Athena a little too much. But it's funny, there was one instance where someone, I guess, challenged my definition of Hephaestus being a god of crafters, because their argument was, well, Athena has the weavers. And my response was, yes, Athena has the weavers, and Hephaestus also has the weavers. He doesn't, it's not a matter of I have this and you don't. It's a matter of weaving happens to be something that, children of Athena do, and people who are, priesthood of Athena do. But it's also something that Hephaestus does. Just because you're, in the military doesn't mean you have to pick Ares or Athena. Just because you handle matters of court or matters of business doesn't mean you have to pick between Athena or Hera. It's a matter of they collaborate well together. And Bill said it perfectly. There's nothing wrong with collaboration, because you will never always have the best version of your ideas. There will always become a point where someone says something, you're like, oh my God, that's so much better than what I thought.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Daryl?
Athena has her plans, her ideas. Hephaestus is action, implementation. And when it comes to the weavers, she handed that over to Arachne.
Sean, do you have anything you want to add?
I think Hephaestus and Athena work really well together. When I held Hephaestus, I talked with them both, because I knew that Hephaestus didn't have all the ideas.
Yep.
They shared them equally. And I got ideas for my projects from both voices in my head talking it out.
That is awesome. As the votary of the Temple of Athena, Athena just told me, who do you think is building my cities? So they clearly get along great.
Has hammered will travel.
Yeah, Daryl?
There's another small part to this. Hephaestus is born of Hera, exclusively. Athena is born of Zeus, exclusively. So what they're missing in their parental relationship through who they are, they complement each other.
That's amazing. Whoa.
Brenna, I think this is why you and I keep psychicking each other.
You think?
That is good stuff, Daryl. Thank you for sharing that. So our next question, we answered it a little bit, but let's go ahead and answer this one again. So we know he is a god of blacksmith crafts. What else is he known for that doesn't come up much? Okay, these blank faces are... So he's not the god of much else, apparently. So he's the god of creation, right?
I mean, that covers a lot.
Yeah.
Like, the way that I versed it, and it kind of got turned into a line when I was Hephaestus that year which was, all who make with their hands are my children. He is creation. He is that spark of an idea. He's that light bulb going off in your head. He is the learning of a new tool, the learning of a new trade, and he is the deepest level of satisfaction when you sit back and look at the thing that you have finished and have finally come to the point where you look at it and say, there's nothing else I can do to it that would make it any better than it is right now.
Well, and I can say too, what else is he known for that doesn't come up much? I run the food pantry, and he's all about the damn garden. He wants me to get the gardens in, and he wants them bigger, and he wants this, and he wants that, and he wants it done right. He doesn't want it half
baked.
Half baked. We'll put it that way. He wants it done completely, and he wants me to get a hold of Gerald's wife and talk to her and see what we can do to make the gardens better down here so that we can feed more people. And he's all about that too. And it's not, he's creating food. He's not creating crass, but he's creating something, and that makes him happy. It doesn't have to be trinkets. It doesn't have to be woodworking. It doesn't have to be leather stuff. It doesn't have to be any of that. He's creating something. He's creating a community. He's creating food. He's creating sustenance. He's creating stability for people. That's all important to him. It's not about creating tangible things. Some of those things are intangible. Community is an intangible thing, but it's still there.
Well, and like I said, he's creating life. I touched on it a little bit before. It's that thing when you buy something that's handmade and you feel that spark of energy that's in it. That is life. It is the soul of that piece. Like, I know, well, I can't say that. Never mind. I don't have a better way of explaining it other than he's a creator. He's a god of creation.
Yep.
He also likes it when I do cross stitch because it's something. It's not typically something he would do, but he's happy I'm creating something. I'm doing something.
If there's anything else that could be said about him, he is a god of salt. He is a god of having an issue, doing something about it, and then learning from the experience, whether it was his fault or not. Particularly with his mother. One of my favorite things about holding Hephaestus was the banter and the fun that I had with the priestess of Hera that year. We'd come into rehearsal and she'd come, and the first time I saw her, it was like, hey son, how was your flight? I was like, not bad, Mom. How was your chair? For those of you without the myth, Hera threw him off a mountain, and Hephaestus created a throne that she was stuck in because he has salt.
Mm-hmm.
The thing with, I talked about this on the panel with Ares. He discovered Ares and Aphrodite were sleeping together, and so he threw a net on them to try to prove a point. And the point he proved was he needed to chill out. And he learned that lesson, and he learned the lesson with Hera.
Well, that leads really well into our next question. In your experience, what is the relationship between Hephaestus and his mama Hera? I feel that the myths don't do their actual relationship justice.
Salt. No, so
like heaping piles of salt.
Yeah. But no, and that's actually a decently common thing with Hephaestus is something will happen where there's a conflict that is resolved, but more often than not, the conflict is within Hephaestus, not with the other person per se. He felt wronged by Aphrodite sleeping with somebody else, when in fact, he needed to learn that Aphrodite is who she is, and he would never change that. He had an issue with his mother because she threw him off a mountain. But if she had not thrown him off the mountain, he would never have landed in Etna and begun smithing things with the Cyclopes. Like everything has a reason for being. And once that resolution happens, things are much, the things are much chiller. Like I said, me and the priestess, I think it was Liz, was Hera that year. Me and Liz would just, all the jokes, all like salt and shade and all the jokes, to the point that someone was even like, that's the queen of the gods. You need to show her respect. And we both looked at the person, looked at each other, and we're like, what are you talking about? We're having fun.
Yeah.
But that's their love language.
Phil?
I see the relationship between, in my experience, between Hephaestus and Mother Hera, that of a child that can't stand their mother figure when they're a child, but when they become an adult, they have that really good friendship, and they're their best friend. They talk all the time. They share ideas. They are in constant contact and communication with each other, but have a healthy relationship because of the stuff that happened in the past that they've grown from. They've learned, again, like Nika was saying, they've learned that lesson, and those lessons, we're grateful for all of life's lessons, especially those uncomfortable ones. And yeah, that was probably uncomfortable when he got yeeted off the mountain. I'd say that, but
more so the landing.
Yeah, but that doesn't stop at the end, get you every time. But to grow from that situation to have a really good relationship is amazing. Trust me, I've done it in my personal life with my mother. My mother and I didn't get along. Kind of had that rocky relationship when I was growing up. I was that angsty teenager. Now we are really good friends, and if I don't call her once a week, she's calling me to make sure I'm alive and I'm okay, because it's that relationship. And I could see that with Hera and Hephaestus, that type of relationship where they're more like friends than mother or son.
I love that. Daryl, you want to add something?
This is just, processing in my head, so hopefully it comes out clear. The relationship between Hera and Hephaestus is a prime example of all single-parent households. So those that had those rocky, rough, times coming up and getting to adulthood, most often males raised by single mothers have, they're usually gar, but when they get older, it's like, you always had my best interests at heart. I'm an idiot. While you look at Zeus and Athena, I must make father proud. Because that happens in the masculine single parent household. And then they get to a point where they're like, really? And then they come back around like, okay.
Yeah. Sean, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Nope.
They're saying it all. Huh?
We got to start with Sean.
Yeah. Start with Sean. I know. These other guys are too excited for things. All right. Let's see. Where are we? 7:41. Okay. Ooh, yeah, I love this one. Okay. What kind of blessings could you ask for from Hephaestus? Sean.
Creativity.
Yup.
The drive to enjoy the work you're doing.
Love that.
Let's see.
Let's get some answers from the other priests. Yeah. Bill?
Patience and fortitude to finish the job.
Nice.
Let's face it, we're in a day and age where we see all the bright and shinies and we stop what we're doing because we want to go do something else. You have that squirrel brain. To ask him for that patience and that guidance and the fortitude to stick with a project until it's through through and done is very important, and that would be a blessing that he would definitely bestow upon you.
Mm-hmm. Daryl?
To know when to stop a project when it is done, and that you don't need to add more to it. And that you take care of yourself, take care of your hands, take care of your eyes, take care of your back, because those are the things that wear the most when it comes to crafting.
Nico?
The patience with yourself to know when it is time to brainstorm a project, when it is time to conceptualize that project into a physical form, when it is time to begin working on that project, when it is time to accept that it has reached the form with which it must stay in, and all throughout that, understanding your personal limits and boundaries and the necessity to take care of yourself so that your craft doesn't suffer.
Great one. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so I want to make sure we have enough time to do this one. So I'm going to go ahead and ask it. Is there a piece of wisdom that you gained from working with Hephaestus, that Hephaestus told you, that you would like to share with those watching? And whoever wants to go first, just... Look at them
If
all.
you've got a
Go ahead.
if you've got a project in mind, whatever it is, do it. Don't think about it, just do it.
That was the last panel.
It's also
You're
this
wrong.
one.
You're not wrong. It's being fun.
It's that whole Aries Hephaestus overlap.
Do it. Who wants to go next?
I have two.
Go for it.
If you are a tradesperson of any kind and you've discovered that when you wake up in the morning, your first thought isn't, what am I going to make today? The drive to finish your daily tasks and things that are required so that you can get to the thing that brings you passion. If the flame in your core has dwindled down to embers in making this thing, doing this thing, evaluate why you began that trade, why it fulfilled you, how it sustained you, how it brought you joy and filled you with happiness and I can't think of the word. Just how it sustained you and filled you up as you did it, as you completed it, beginning, middle, and end being just as fulfilling. Because it is, in my opinion, it is more important that the craftsman gain fulfillment in the creation of the craft than it is the people who are demanding the craft be fulfilled by its creation. That's number one. Number two, which is, in my opinion, also just as important, there is nothing wrong with putting a project on the shelf if you have reached a point where continuing it both will not fulfill you and is being done because you feel obligated to, not because you want to. It is not a bad thing to have partially written stories, partially made crafts of wood, partially conceptualized projects, because you are taking the time that it requires to create a whole thing, idea, project, whatever. You're giving it the respect and the time it requires to be complete and not done because you have to. Because I have to is quite often the biggest detriment to any project.
Mm-hmm.
So never feel guilty for having unfinished projects if you are still passionate in completing that project when it is time to do so.
Beautifully said. Thank you, Nico. Daryl, and then we'll leave off with our wonderful vessel.
I went way overboard. I built all these things. I had Nico and my clergyman in the shop with me, just pumping stuff out. And once that festival was over, I didn't make another thing. Even through Spring Mysteries. Nope, not making anything. It's like, you got all this work done here. If they need anything else, they should have gotten a hold of you sooner. We don't do things on rush order. But
you did make one thing.
Oh yeah, but I won't talk about that. That has to be witnessed. But the thing is, it gave him time to focus on the other mysteries, the interconnectedness between him, the other deities, and the world. Because one of the things that's truly heartbreaking is when an item is given to the temple and you're told it's the last piece made by that person. And you take that piece in, and it is the most holy of holies to him. And yeah. So.
That's a powerful experience. Man. Thank you for sharing that, Daryl. Bill?
His biggest lesson he's taught me is to know my limits and know myself. Know what I'm doing in the world is important. I may not see the effects, but they're there. And that I need to make sure that I am taking time to fill my cup, because I can't pour or create from an empty one. And that's been a really, really, really hard lesson for me personally. So him reinforcing it and beating it with a hammer really helps. Yeah, quite often.
That is wonderful. All right, so I would like to thank the Temple of Hephaestus for their time tonight and meeting up with us and sharing their stories and all of the wonderful things they had to tell us. If you want to learn more about the Temple of Hephaestus, feel free to either find them on Facebook, just search for Temple of Hephaestus, and then you can also find them on our website at www.atcwicca.org/temple-of-Hephaestus. You can also learn more at www.springmysteries.com about the deities. Remember, we are just less than a month away from Spring Mysteries starting. Woo! So make sure you get your registrations in sooner rather than later. We will be back next week with Aphrodite and Balbo. That's going to be a hoot. I am very excited. So thank you, all of you for joining us tonight, for asking your questions, for witnessing these beautiful panels and these stories these people are sharing. And I cannot wait to see you next week. Blessed be.